So, knowing that you're rolling out on Koth with a Lucio, you should be knowing that you are here earlier, or at least at the very least at the same time as the enemy team. The enemy team will not be faster than you, barring if they have like some sim TP where they TP out of spawn to like here and then speed boost. But even then, they'll be maybe like right here as you guys are rounding the corner. The fact that you were sort of I don't want to call it pre-aiming, but like pre-matrixing this, assuming you're waiting for something like Fire Strike, look how far away they are. They didn't even use speed boost properly from what I can tell. Does their Lucio even still have speed boost? No, he like just used it though. So they did not get the same value out of speed boost that you guys did. And look how much farther ahead of them that you are. No need to waste this much matrix. This first fight's going to be so important. So the fact that you're going into it already with like 20% matrix is a pretty bad sign. We learned how to not feed. Let's go. So yeah, already you don't get punished too hard because already you've got so much space priority. Look how much of this room you're controlling. Your backline's completely untouched. Your maze lining up for a wall right now. Potential to catch this Zarya off guard. So you are going to have matrix available to eat this Fire Strike anyway, but you should don't depend on like predicting things all the time like that. Like there are going to be times where you need to predict, but in this situation, have the confidence to know that your rollout is going to be there at the same pace as the enemy team. And you can react to things like Fire Strike. Good isolation with the Mei wall. Good playing with your Rhine. And yeah, this is a very straightforward team comp. Not too much to say about this. Moving around to point. Again, I'm not really sure what you're matrixing in some of these situations. Like you turn and you decide to matrix here. Oh wait, no, this was after. Oh, I think it just happened. It's not rewinding far enough. Yeah, so that matrix usage, it just seems like you've got an itchy trigger finger with this matrix like right here. What do you matrix? So for example, like you're not getting punished right now, but imagine the enemy Zarya is playing right here and she sees you do that, if she has grab or something, and then she sees you turn, use matrix, drop matrix, and you've got that little bit of cooldown time before you can put it back up again, and she lands a grab because of it. Or an enemy Mei throws a blizzard, or an enemy tracer gets a pulse bomb off, or something like that. Be always ready to pull the trigger on matrix, but don't be looking for excuses to pull it. Be finding reasons to pull that trigger. So trigger it based on a DPS going aggressive, your Rhine being focused down, or something like that. Don't just see an enemy, think you might need matrix, and just throw it out a little preemptively, because otherwise you're going to end up always at like 20 to 30% matrix like you are right now, and it seems like you're hovering below the 50% mark most of the time anyway. Good focus and isolation on the Zarya. Again, a lot of value out of that Mei wall, and good value out of the matrix when you did let it recharge finally. The biggest thing for matrixing that Zarya was not actually like, you weren't preventing her damage obviously, but you were preventing her from being healed from the Ana, as well as any follow-up damage from the soldier before that wall came up. So that's why that matrix was really good. Sleep comes through. Yeah, your tank line's just so solid right now. There's nothing they can do to get in. Bit of unnecessary damage taken there. Again, you're not really a main tank. Unless your team is actively fighting, you don't need to put yourself in the face of this soldier for any reason. Unless your team's calling for like an aggressive engage, like Reaper's flanking, you're going to speed into them, then you'd want to get in front of the soldier and deny everything from them. But you've already won the point, you've already forced them back, they're clearly still regrouping, the soldier's just getting free ult charge and free damage on you. That's going to take resources away from your Moira. So now that we're coaling, we should be looking to go aggressive with this, but it seems like we're pretty slow. So I'm guessing this is a miscommunication thing. But it does force the beat out of them. So, okay, let's rewatch this whole fight again. So, starting before this actually. So the coal's coming out now. This is when, I mean, again, this seems like a miscommunication because look how slow your team's playing right now. Like, they're so unwilling to cross this line when realistically, coal in this situation needs to be used aggressively to find any value out of it. Otherwise, we're just basically using it like Moira's left click. And that's not how you want to use that ultimate. So Would have liked to seen this comboed with like a speed boost with this Mei wall into maybe not a pin, but a really aggressive movement from your Ryan, followed up by you. But because your team's a little slow to act on that, there's not much you can do individually. You do spot this Reaper out and force him back. As soon as you've nullified his value from this fight, I think this is a little bit overstepping. As soon as you've forced him away from this choke, it becomes really dangerous to try and chase him down. If you can do things like force his positioning away, or at best force his Wraith, like you're doing right now, that's huge value. But now you've taken yourself sort of out of the fight, and you did shut down this flank from the Reaper, but now you're not ready to cover for your Ryan at the same time. So good to identify and nullify this threat, but don't overcommit to it, expecting to be able to like continue the chase, expecting your team to follow up this way aggressively, unless you find like some huge opportunity to isolate someone, to like boop them in like over here and burn them down while body blocking them. You're not going to be able to net this kill, and you find yourself split by this wall from your team and not in a position to reaggress, and it's going to take a little bit of time to come back to your team. That could be punished. I'm really surprised your Ryan doesn't die here, honestly. Okay, he will with the grab though, maybe? Okay, let's look at this from third person. What happened? What happened? Blue team in shambles. So the Blizzard comes out to counter the grab, followed by the bomb. They don't have bubbles up. Ryan gets frozen, so shield drops. Nice counter ults. I'm not sure how much of that was planned or based on reaction, but good combo. Is this a ladder game? I believe so. But they're grouped in a comp game. So let's look at the decision making going into that bomb before it even came out. I think if Blizzard didn't come out, this bomb would not have done anything. So I'm guessing your team is communicating to counter this grab play with this ult combo. If this wasn't an ult combo, if it was just Blizzard or just bomb, it'd probably be very hard to find value out of this, given how safe Ana is, given how safe the Ryan could play if he wasn't getting Blizzarded, for example. But yeah, really good stabilization. Really nice counter ults. Again, a little bit of overextension. Like, as soon as you hit the boop on this Reaper, I'm not sure... Are you trying to get behind him to body block him? Because it seems like you're kind of missing out on a bit of damage that you could be getting by ending as soon as you boop him, following up by the melee, the left click, rockets if you have them. But you're sort of losing your target every time you go aggressive on this Reaper. Like, he's got no Wraith right now. You've just booped him into a corner, but then you fly past him and you kind of struggle to reacquire the target. He should still die here. Good. But yeah, similar to the first time you went aggressive, you flew past him. You flew into him and you got the boop. The hitbox for D.Va, by the way, like, it boops like when it's like in front of your field of vision. Like, you can stop what you think might be short of them and still hit the boop, and you can cancel it with a melee to get an extra 30 damage in as well. But the fact that you booped him in here and he got like stuck on this corner before he was able to walk away without Wraith means you should be able to net that kill without having to over-aggress too much. You can just continue to chase him, keep your crosshair on him at all times, and just really finish that kill. But I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. If you were trying to body block, it makes a bit of sense, but then you also gave up the space when you were body blocking him, so I'm not sure. So in general, I'm not a huge fan of the way your Ryan is playing this. Granted, it's working fairly well because there's soldiers on this flank and there's not as much damage coming forward. But typically, the way Ryan D.Va will play is a somewhat softer version of the way Ryan Zarya plays. Typically, you'll see Ryan Zarya, Ryan walks up with shield, puts his shield up, gets the Zarya bubble, starts swinging. When the bubble's over, he stops swinging, puts his shield up, Zarya walks up, does her own bubble, and then they sort of like shift back and forth. That's like the default way of playing Ryan Zarya in a neutral fight. The way you can play this with D.Va, obviously you use the Matrix in a similar way to bubble, but your Ryan needs to be more choosy about his engages because he can't just swing for free against an enemy Ryan or against an enemy Zarya. So what I'd like to see is the ability to leverage this cover more effectively. You own the point, right? You don't need to take a fight out here if you're not set up for it, which at this moment, given where your Reaper and your Mei are, I would say you're not set up for a fight right here. If you had a Mei right here looking to wall here maybe, if you had a Mei or a Reaper flanking behind, going aggressive, then you'd want to push into them. But from this situation, there's no reason to fight around this pillar, and this is going to benefit them way more than it's going to benefit you guys. Their Ana's going to have free sight lines, their Zarya is going to have a ton of damage coming out, and it's going to be very hard to go aggressive once you've lost Matrix and once you've lost Shield. Again, this isn't solely on you as the D.Va player, but the way I'd like this to be seen is for leveraging this corner a lot more readily, and then as soon as one or more of them step through it, probably with bubbles, you monitor those cooldowns and then abuse them. Once they've used those cooldowns, then you choose to go aggressive, and then you have the option of either pocketing your Rein for the Rein duel, if there's things like Soldier, Reaper shooting at him, Ana even. You can look to finish the kill by isolating and pocketing your Rein, or you can then choose to go even more aggressive and sort of split your tank pressure by going faster than your Rein and isolating backline members. This will prevent them from putting out any healing output, but also put them in threat range in case they get Reaper or your Mei are able to follow that up, either Reaper through like a flank route or Mei with isolation with a wall or something like that. Typically, you never want to be taking this sort of like 2v2. Granted, it's not really a 2v2 right now, but you don't want to be taking Rein Zarya versus Rein D.Va fights for very long, because you will absolutely lose that fight. There's just more damage coming out from the Rein Zarya, and if they're able to use bubbles any way they want to, they're always going to get away with more value out of them. So use your flexibility and your mobility as D.Va to better mitigate these kind of spaces. Don't fight in areas that don't benefit you, and then when you do find a reason to fight, either by them frontline overextending, you can look to isolate backline to prevent healing and damage output, or you can look to pocket your Rein and any close range damage members if they're getting a ton of value. That's sort of a decision you need to make. But now, since you've already burned all these resources, great, okay, never mind, the Shatter comes through. I should really watch these fights out before I start talking about how they're going to end. The downside that could have happened if the Shatter and wall don't come through, I'm surprised that Shatter landed through that wall, honestly, is you'll be left without Matrix and without a Rein shield, and they'll have a full charge Zarya. That's the situation you need to worry about. Good response to the Soldier. Good that you didn't use boosters unnecessarily during that Shatter fight. You were ready to respond to threats like that. And you still had Matrix available as well. So, good resource management. So in that case, just to point out again, the trigger you guys had was the ult play. If this ult didn't land, you would have been at a pretty severe disadvantage. This can be played in any number of other ways as well, with like a Mei wall, like I said, which did land as well, with an aggressive Coalescence, with an aggressive D.Va Bomb or Mei Blizzard. That's how you're going to need to find your aggression windows, because you can't rely on big cooldowns like Zarya bubbles. You need to play around those and into your own cooldowns, is the moral of the story, I guess. Again, you have this habit of going like past your target. The Reaper was right here shooting at your Mei, and you matrixed the Mei, which was good to keep her alive, prevent like the one shot from Reaper. But then you committed boosters, which in the first place I don't think you needed to boost here. You were in range to matrix Mei in the first place. But then you commit to this positioning, which gives you a much harder time to get back into the fight. You're not going to chase down this Reaper, so it's good you didn't like fly into there. But flying this far out of the fight means you've given up this priority for your Reinhardt. Your Reinhardt now is forced to play a little bit more defensively because you're not with him to matrix and do damage with him as well. But also you're going to have a hard time like just getting back into this fight until your boosters come back up, which granted is a very short cooldown, 3 more seconds, but it can make a difference, especially when they're making aggressive play with this Nano Reaper as we're seeing. So hopefully we'll have boosters on time. Okay, he's not getting any value, just gets pooped away. That's fine. Trying to be a little fancy with that bomb play. Always think about where you want the bomb to explode. Don't just be like, I'm going to throw it above point. I'm going to throw it behind Rein shield, stuff like that. Think of specific locations you want it to land. Do you want it to land on top of this pillar and try and like subvert the Rein shield by potentially hitting people over it or forcing them off of the point? Do you want it to hit behind here and behind this map, or both sides of this map if you hit it right on the corner? Do you want to land right on top of the Rein, so he has to choose between shielding teammates on this side and this side? Hi, Archer. The way you handled this, it looked like you were trying to be fancy. You were like boosting back, then you 180'd, and then you flicked up. Fortunately, it didn't flick up fast enough, and it just went across the point. Very easy to shield and stuff like that. So again, when you're bombing, if this was just a bomb to re-mech, then you should have just left it until your mech was dying, gotten to a safe position, and then bombed right after. Try and bait them into aggressing onto you and then re-mech then. But it seemed like you were trying to re-engage with this bomb play. And in order for that to work, it needs, one, you need some follow-up from your team, because there's not much you're going to do unless you manage to land a huge bomb value on its own. And you need to be very deliberate with the execution of the bomb. Like I said, think of a specific location you want it to land, and aim for that. It doesn't need to be perfect every time. It'll come with practice. But don't just throw it out. Don't just throw it like, I'm going to send bomb across point, not really knowing if it's going to land here, if it's going to land here, if it's going to land here. I'm going to throw a bomb above point, not really thinking about which side of the point the enemy's going to be on after the bomb or before the bomb, anything like that. The fact that they were aggressing into you this heavily, I think a remech bomb would have made more sense just even back here on this corner. If you were trying to turn this fight, you don't need to get a bunch of kills. You need to slow their aggression or punish their aggression even with the bomb play, and then find a way to group up with your team to re-aggress together. But yeah, unless you find a 6-man bomb on your own, this bomb is not going to get you anything. So think about where the enemy's playing, what they're trying to do in this moment. In this moment, they're going very aggressive. So bombing deep into their side of the map probably doesn't make sense. And yeah, just try to punish these aggressive movements with bomb instead of trying to go aggressive yourself right away. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But we're at 99%, and we got some pretty good ultimates coming into this fight. Gotta worry a little bit about grav. So, what are you aiming to matrix here? What's up, Jok3r? Sorry for starting without you. Welcome, welcome. Mainly, so far I've been talking about matrix usage, a little bit about your bomb play, and about what your priorities should be in sort of the pre and mid fight. You think you're looking for Zarya here? So, granted, you probably assume they have grav, which is a good assumption. But again, if you're the Zarya player in this instance, are you going to grab right away knowing they have a diva right when the Rein walks through the choke? Or are you going to wait to see and hunt the diva? And are you going to try and monitor her matrix usage and punish the moment she does run out of it? So what I'm worried about the situation, somewhat similar to the very first fight, is you're kind of pre-matrixing without a clear intention, and then you're already out of it. Granted, you've got this Blizzard play coming out that's going to slow the Zarya down anyway, but if they were going for an aggressive grab, this is when they'd be hitting it, not the moment Reinhardt steps through the door. If they grab like inside this door, there's a good chance you guys will live through it anyway, unless they've got big ults to combo with it. Maybe something like the Death Blossom, but again, if you're just here with full matrix, your Rein walks forward, gets a bit of information, then you can follow up and try to hunt the Zarya and stuff her. Then you'll have one more space to work with, more matrix to work with, and it'll be harder for the Zarya to react to that, given that you've already cleared space before already committing all of your matrix. So don't be worried necessarily of this. Let your main tank walk up a little bit ahead of you, get the information for you about where Zarya is playing, if there's Reapers flanking here, stuff like that. And then if he gets solo grabbed, that's its own thing, and you could probably keep him up with your matrix and with your supports. But if you all run in as 6 and you burn all your resources and you don't find an advantage, luckily with this Blizzard you probably will find an advantage, then you're going to be left with nothing, and then they have a very easy re-aggression. But yeah, this Blizzard is huge. You go down to the Death Blossom. Would have been nice to be able to isolate that Reaper, but again, no Matrix. Hard to respond to that in any other way. And yeah, you've got tons of ults to work with to win this point out now. So yeah, a little bit too much, I don't want to call it anticipation, but like assumptions about what they're going to be doing, and not enough reactions. So yes, you need to be thinking about what they can do and what their potential reach is, what your threats are, i.e. knowing that they have grav is all very, very good. But you can't overreact to the fact that you know they're going to do that. You need to wait for them to actually show something. And remember, use the team around you to help you with that. Like I said, let your main tank walk 2 steps ahead of you, get a bit more information before committing your matrix, check your flanks, stuff like that, before going all in. So again, sticking with this close range brawl comp, we've got Sensa on the sim this time. So no Mei wall, less easy punishes on frontline, but significantly more close range damage. Also, TP, of course. They're on ball Ashe now. No more Rein. Again, not huge, but you're not really blocking anything right here. I mean, I would say even Rein's shield's kind of wasted right now. But he's using it to set up the TP. So you're not going to get punished for this, but I think it's just a habit you can work on breaking. Unless you're blocking something big like a Fire Strike that's actually going to get through Rein's shield there. Maybe a nade or a sleep if you see Ana shoot it. But just blocking random spam damage from a ball right there, not good value out of your Matrix. Okay, good. I'm glad to see you didn't commit to that ball when you saw him rolling away. That's number one, a target that doesn't matter too much. Like, your Matrix isn't going to prevent anything ball does in the first place, and he's just going to be wasting your time because he's more mobile. And two, there's much bigger threats coming in from this front line, namely this Reaper that you need to focus on. So good of you to ignore that target. Not too much to say there. Your front line's doing a good job. Your Rein, I should say, is doing a good job at making this space usable for your team, and anyone that walks through gets punished. This ball is doing his best. I'm not sure what exactly he's trying to do. He's probably trying to boot people in, but you'll be ready to respond to that with Matrix. What's up, DPS Mercy? How's it going? Small thing here. Knowing that you just captured the point and seeing your Reaper trying to go aggressive here, you could be using your positioning to follow this up. I would argue both you and Rein could be doing this, but you as the D.Va are much more flexible when it comes to movement. So seeing your DPS this far forward should be a trigger for you to move up and try to either Matrix them to help them secure kills, or just move up to contest the space so that if they get pushed, you're in their face instead of their DPS. Because if this Reaper gets pushed, especially now that we saw he doesn't have Wraith, and people don't follow up fast enough, he's just going to get burned down. Walking up now. Exactly like that. Helping him get out, but you can also, if you were there a few seconds earlier, you'd be able to help him go aggressive as when he was taking shots here, as he was moving over to take shots on the ball. Both help with your damage, of course, but mainly with your defense matrix to make sure he doesn't get punished for that aggression. Nice little boop on the ball. He's definitely overcommitting, I would say. Again, ooh, unlucky sleep. I would say try and train yourself to that sound. Anytime you hear, you can assume where Ana's playing, even if you don't see her from this perspective. Like, they've been assaulting you from this solo angle, so the fact that you're peeking this window, as soon as you hear that sleep dart, just flash a matrix, 1 second, take it back down. Doesn't hurt. But before that, I was going to say, the fact that you guys are using Coalescence right now, and you've got numbers advantage, would like to see both you and Rein going really aggressive into this. You flying forward, isolating this Reaper, forcing him to Wraith, making it easier to follow up after, isolating tanks and matrixing any healing coming in towards them. You should be taking initiative, given you have the mobility and given that you are a tank, to fly into this fight zone and be aggressive, knowing that you're going to be covered by Cole, knowing that you have a numbers advantage and you can commit to this. I'm not saying boost into their backline and solo or anything like that and like waste all your matrix, but you should be calling for an aggressive play here if you weren't asleep. And you should be looking to turn this one numbers advantage and one ultimate used into a full team wipe. Okay, still good. I'd say you still should be going aggressive. Okay, good. This is what we like to see. That was perfect. That's exactly what I was talking about. That aggressive movement over the wall, which you can do, and no one else on your team can really do. I guess maybe Sim with some sort of crazy TV, but you getting over here, completely blocking and doing damage from this angle, completely going in, and then matrixing high priority backline members, Ashe, Reaper, Ana, all of them getting matrix when you were going in, making it super easy for your Reaper, your Rein, your Moira, your Sim even, to just walk through this team. Really good aggression. Again, you can't do that as blindly in neutral like you can with Zarya. Zarya's aggression, where Zarya, obviously Zarya doesn't fly in, but when Zarya has bubbles and you just sort of double bubble yourselves and take a bunch of forward pressure and then back off. You can't do that as D.Va. You can't just like kind of go in on cooldown and take a few shots then try and get out, because you need to be ready for so many other things. But you can commit so much harder when you do find these advantages, like we just saw. That pathing, that isolation, can't do anything like that on any character besides D.Va. So let's go back real quick and see why we couldn't scout this out. So not necessarily your fault. Your comp is one that doesn't really want to control the map, but wants to all in on specific locations. So it does make sense. You're right here, by the way. I don't know why it's not. Okay, you're right here, actually. So it makes sense that you don't want to like spread yourselves out too much over these locations. You want to be able to hard commit in one location really quickly. Knowing that, I think it's up to you to take initiative as the most mobile member on your team, save for maybe Lucio, to be the one checking these kind of marks. The fact that you have Reaper up here means you don't need to play up here to check this or this, but you need to be ready for this flank, as well as be ready to follow up this, as well as be ready to follow up Reaper because of how flexible your kit is. So I'm not saying like stand right here and cut yourself off from the rest of the team and then like push people when they come over here, but be over here ready to call it out. If Ashe peeks around this corner, she's not going to be able to bob through you, so you can just sort of stuff her, force her back a little bit, fly back to your team if you get low, stuff like that. But most importantly, you're getting information for your team. As D.Va, as the one in a giant mech that can fly, you need to be the one getting information for your team in this composition. It's unrealistic to expect many other people to do that. Maybe Lucio could be like skating around trying to be really fast, but it's a lot more risky for him to be away from the team than it is for you. So, small thing, but it does get you punished here for not having enough information. Obviously, like I said, you guys are very ready to commit here, but they're using that against you. They're using that commitment to one choke against you, and they're completely splitting you guys up with the bob here, resulting in a team wipe. Nice little sleep from there on it, too. Not sure I agree with that sim ult or the bomb. I mean, okay. Good news is we forced a couple ults out of them, but again, think about what you're doing with this bomb. Realistically, are you going to be able to turn this fight with bomb? Unless they drastically misplay the way. Let's look at exactly where the bomb exploded. So it just exploded in the middle of point. And Lucio only died because he felt he needed to commit beat on point, I guess. It did save their Zarya, to be fair. But realistically, you are not in a position to turn this fight. It's just you. Where's the rest of your team? Where's anyone left on your team? The Rhine is charging in from spawn. The Lucio speeding in. They've got ults when they get here, but at this point the fight is lost. You've already committed too much by committing the Sim Wall, by committing the Death Blossom, I would argue, once you were at that big of a disadvantage. But Death Blossom might have been able to turn that, I guess. So, either you thought this was a winnable fight, either you thought that you had more people with you, or you thought this bomb was going to be like absolutely massive. But to me, none of those things were evident. The kill feed alone should tell you how much of a disadvantage you're at, but then also the positioning you're in versus the positioning they have, very hard to find value out of a bomb. If you bomb on point, they can hide off point. If they bomb over here, they can just rush you on point. So, very risky and unnecessary bomb, I would say. Nice kill on the ball. You are getting away with murder here. Okay, so granted, you guys came back from this and you won this fight. Realistically, assuming this is like this is an even playing field, your team had no business winning that fight. And in the future, if you make plays like this consistently, these sort of like re-aggression plays, when you have, in my opinion, no reason to, you're going to get punished more often than not, and it's going to snowball into a deeper and deeper hole. You're going to lose the fight, but you're also going to lose ult economy, and then you're going to have a harder time retaking, and it's going to snowball into more time on the point for them. So it's just too much risk involved. Mixed plat and diamond game, yeah, I would say at any rank, but like assuming the teams are level, I would argue it's pretty obvious from this fight alone, your team is a peg above the enemy team, whether that's because you guys are queuing together and you've got better communication, or just you're better individually. For whatever reason, you did not deserve that fight win, I'm sorry. They absolutely threw that away. And the fact that you killed 2 people after your bomb as well, it was just outrageous. But yeah, since they committed basically all their ults to try and take that, you're probably going to hold this fairly easily. They do have grab. Nice little maneuver. I like that a lot. So this became a huge thing in GOAT's meta about how divas can outplay Zaryas and try and bait grab. So that was a good example. Going out of her line of sight, most importantly, so she can't see you explicitly drop Matrix because she knows that it's got that sort of, I don't want to call it like a reload time, but like a recast time before you can put Matrix up again. A lot of divas will also like face one way, turn down like and look at the ground, or to do like a 180 or like a 90 degree, look at this Reaper and then quickly flash back to try and bait the Zarya's attention that way. But I really like what you did here, incorporating boosters, letting the Matrix drop, but not in front of the Zarya, means you were able to put it back up again and catch the grab. That was really nice. Exactly, yeah. You're trying to make her think that you're no longer worrying about her, and then come back at the last second. It's a hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of game sense, a lot of just playing Diva against Zarya to learn how different players react to those kind of situations. But yeah, man, what an absolute robbery of a game. First point, Control Center, you guys just won very handedly. Like, first fight was just snowballed, and then you did a really good job retaking as well. This fight, I mean, they did a really good job of, like, dealing with you guys at this point, and then just completely flubbed it, trying to snowball it to points. So, this is something that'll work sometimes, kind of based on the opponents you're playing against, but against any sort of coordination from them in terms of target focus, in terms of playing around each other's resources, in terms of not walking into a Diva Bomb, this will not be consistent play. So just be careful about those kind of choices. If you are making a bomb play, any kind of ult play really, to try and turn a fight, you need to sort of weigh the odds in favor and against you. So you have to think about like the cost, what's it called? The cost benefit analysis. So yes, you might be able to turn this fight, but you're committing an ult that might otherwise help you retake if you lose it anyway. Versus if you save your mech, you'll just burn some time on the clock, you'll get killed, but you'll be coming back in with bomb, and you'll be able to make a play off of that to break into the point. Also, given the risk that the fact that you were alone, it was 1v4, I believe. 1v5, actually, you killed the Lucio with the bomb. That made it a 1v4. You can't always expect that to happen, and if this bomb was intentional here, you should be thinking about not only like what value you're going to get from it, but how your team is going to use that value. Luckily, you got so much value out of it that your team had no problem using it, but typically you wouldn't want to see this kind of play unless you knew someone was coming right back in, unless you knew Reinhardt was like charging someone on point, unless you knew Reaper was about to TP in and finish some kills or something like that. So, again, absolutely outrageous game. This bomb was, funnily enough, the fight winner. And then, of course, getting the 2 kills on the ball, and then the Ana, absolutely massive. But realistically, that won't happen every time, so be careful about making those choices, and really think about not only where you're throwing the bomb, but what is going to happen after the bomb. You can't always depend on a bomb killing even one person, let alone 2, 3, or how many. So think about how your team's going to follow up, how you're going to enable some aggression or break through some space with it, and how your team's going to use that space afterwards to continue the fight. But yeah, other than that, there was a few bad habits in terms of using Matrix preemptively. Always, when there are high priority things to Matrix, such as like Ryan's Fire Strike, on his Sleep and Nade, Dynamite from Ashe, Grav, always be thinking about those things. You did a good job, like I said, catching the Grav on in this case, but there were, on First Fight Control Center, First Fight here as well, you kind of pre-Matrix, just unnecessary spam damage, and you were left, on Control Center at least, you were left with no Matrix virtually when the actual fight started. So lay off the trigger finger a little bit, but always be thinking about what specific things you need to be able to matrix, not just as much as you can, but the specifics. And yeah, overall, your awareness has been good. You were very aware of flanking Reapers. There are times when you overcommitted to holding space here and you weren't monitoring space over here, so maybe a bit more priority on scouting information in the pre-fight. But other than that, you did a good job responding to enemy Reapers, enemy soldiers that flanked on control center and stuff like that. So overall, not a bad VOD. Again, I think you guys were definitely a step above these guys in terms of skill and coordination. So you got away with a few mistakes that normally you wouldn't. So think about those situations, even though they worked out in your favor this time. Think about what choices you're making in game, what information is coming in behind those choices, and how you can get the most value out of your whole kit and, importantly, your ultimate as well.